Okay, so I'm going to explain the high level about homework 4 first, and then we'll get down to the detail. So homework 4 is trying to convert a story or some kind of things happen in the past into a bunch of events. In this case, 4 events. And then so, which means that I have to have a way to do the modeling about a bunch of classes so I can represent those events that's actually described in the story. So you can see that on the screen that this is essentially the story. Okay, this is a story. So I specifically say, okay, I highlight the content of the story that need to be included in the event. And then there are 4 events. Okay, so how do I make sure? So essentially, I could potentially do more, get more, but this is the part that I think is a good starting point for us to understand. Okay, if I can keep all this, then essentially I have a digital representation about the history, either it's a history of a person or it's a history of a bus. That's okay. All right. So in some sense, at the high level, that this is a design assignment. So design assignment is that just learn based on what you learned so far about class. So what's a class? A class is just has a name, has a bunch of attribute, and then has a bunch of member function for SS. So essentially, you want to design a bunch of class. I mean, potentially you can design just one single class to represent this. But as I suggest, you might want to design similar to what we did with CPP01, that you have already some class being predefined, such as GPS location, such as time, such as person and thing, and your job is try to put those pieces together to be able to represent the event. So let me first say that, okay, so there are 4 events we want to represent. I'm kind of using this 4 record. I call it record, but they are just 4 events. They're related to 2 things. One is time, and the second thing is about location, right? Every event should have a time and should have a location. In this case, the location is one single location, one single time point. That's okay. And later, you can actually design for your own application such that you can represent event that's happened at the same time, but at different location. You can extend it to do that. But let's first try to see how do you represent something with one location, one time. And then if you look at the rest of the information, I highlighted at the red. So let's read the first part. The first part of the red is Wednesday, October 4th, ended at 4 p.m. So that represents the time, right? And then there is a room 1010 of TLC that represent the location, right? And then I have an event that the instructor, you see that the second sentence started with the instructor. So which means that the instructor is a person not only involved in the second event, which is the unit train, but based on the English, the instructor is also included in the first event as well. Okay, so you can see the first event will have the time and has a location and has a person, instructor. In fact, later you will see there is another student also involved, student John. So John must be also happen in the first event. Okay, so even the first event, I have a 2-person, right? And then remember that the instructor has some device with that. Wait a minute, where's my device? Okay, yeah. You see that the instructor plays some music on an Android device with a JLab Bluetooth earphone, right? So that means he has at least 2 devices. One is Android phone, and one is JLab. So this part, you can make your own assumption about when the instructor obtained that device. So naturally, I will assume that instructor had those two all the time. So it means that those two devices are actually with the instructor from the beginning. So those are the information we need to capture for event number one. So event number one is time, location, and device. Okay, and device and the people involved, right? Okay, so here is an interesting point. I remember I said that in the class, this is a design assignment. Design assignment meaning that you have the freedom to decide how you're going to model the class and the device. So one of the modeling which I show on Wednesday was I just basically add a device to the event. But on the other hand, I can do differently. I can add the device to the people. I can actually, instead of have the, if you remember, let me actually remind you about what I did on Wednesday.
You had the object, and then you pushed another item into the object.
Right.
Outside of the class constructor.
Right. That's right. That's right. So there is at least two parts of the assignment we need to worry. The first part I have been talking about is design the class. The class is basically I have enough to represent all kind of information I want to represent. But I haven't talked about object, because object is based on the class. I'm going to create those objects. So the first design, I just give you, I call this reference implementation. It's just one way to represent the information. Let me just hold on to this. You see that I define record R1. Can you see my screen? You can see my screen, right? The record R1 means event number one. So look at this. I add Felix, add a person. Oh, this is not event one, because this is Swedish meatball. This is nothing to do with homework 2. Homework 2 is a little bit below. Okay, so I create a time of the event, which is the time for the first event. All right, and then I have to define the first event, which I call a homework 2 R1 underscore R1. And then I add a person Felix. I haven't add John. Okay, I probably should do here is that I should add John as well. I should add John as well. Okay, and then I basically say, hey, I have a thing. I call this object. So I'm creating an object called Android Felix, and then the owner of the device is Felix. Okay, that's how I did that, and then I basically set the value for Android Felix and location and things like that. And then there is another thing called JLab Felix. I create another object, and now you can see I actually add the first device, add to the homework 2 R1. I didn't add it to the person. I added to the record. And then I added to another JLab, and then I set where. I set the event to be where, and I set the, oh, you know what? This is HW2. HW2 R1. Okay, I set the time to be that. Okay, so up to this point, let's think about this. This, you know what? I want to do a little bit different. I want to add this 2 lines here. Let me add this 2 line here. Okay. If you think about this 6 lines here represent the way I create the first event of those 4. So essentially what I did here is just create a record called HW2 underscore R1, just adding the people I want, adding the device I want, update the location, update the time. That's it. Okay, so that's basically one way to represent the event. So I said this is just one design. But let's evaluate this design. This design, number one, it captures all the information that at least highlight in the red, even with the implicit one, like whether the instructor is there, because it captures the people, it captures the device, it also captures the ownership of the device. So I kind of putting the ownership of the device in the thing itself, okay? And then I add, of course, I add the time and the location. So that's kind of, if you ask what is the homework 2 is asking, is that the student can have their own freedom to design a bunch of class to capture the statement that was given to you. And especially you need to capture all the red one. So so that I will stop here. Is that answer some of your question or any follow-up question you have?
So for the homework then, are we creating like the record class or like the person, thing, time class?
Yeah. So in my original release, you definitely need to create the record class. And in some sense, you can rewrite the record class if you want to design something totally different. Okay, so in the first release of the reference implementation, I didn't use a vector. For example, I just used single person. That's not enough, right? Or single device. That's not enough to represent. So you have to use something like a vector. But just an example, I'm not saying you should use a vector. You shouldn't use. Some of the students last time when I assigned this, they know the whole event, there's only possible have a 2-person and 2 device. So they just basically say person 1, person 2, and device 1, device 2 in the record without avoid using vector. That's actually okay if you're sure that that's for ecs36b, that's okay, because you're sure that that's the limit about your problem domain. Okay, so but let me go back to your previous question about person, thing, like a GPS and those things. Those things were given to you as a reference. If you design the record like the way I approach, then it might save you some time to just use person, thing, and to do that. Well, on the other hand, if you want to design something differently, especially as an undergraduate student, you should feel absolutely free to rewrite everything, and then to have a mistake and bring it to the class to ask me. Okay. And that I think is also a good way to learn. I do want to say I make one modification for the GPS. Let me actually, since I have a John, I want to create a John person, because I feel that I like to code to be. Sure, I'm listening to you.
So if I get this straight, so you want the record is going to be like the highest objects, and then you're going to have objects within that object.
Right.
Gotcha.
Right.
And then
that's right.
the dump to JSON, it shows the highest level, and then kind of like the hierarchy essentially. It prints it in that sense.
I will. That's an excellent question. Hold on. Let me finish what I'm typing, and then I will tell you. Okay. So oh, I have to change this to John. Okay. So yes, the record is the highest level, right? So when you do the dump to JSON, which I will hopefully start talking about that, I don't think I can go through the whole dump to JSON even before the next midterm, because it's dump to JSON is a core piece of object-oriented design. The concept is a little bit advanced. So when you so let me first explain what is a dump. I will explain again in the class, but a dump is essentially print out the information about a particular object. Because if you think about that, I have an object I want to do debugging. I wanted to know what this object is. I have to have a way to easily print out the whole thing just for debugging, for information. I mean, of course, I can write the program, see out each of the variable, right? But the thing is that I in sometime I have to, in fact, look at the .h file to know what kind of attribute I do have, and then decide what to print. That's actually going to be a huge burden on the programmer because they have to learn a lot of other things. So usually we create this dump function to basically dump every single attribute in the particular object, so we can actually see a one shot in just one line. So now I go back to your question. When I say dump on a record, so at the record level, I have a bunch of objects, right? A bunch of attributes, but some of the attributes are person. It's a person object, say Felix and John in this case. So what the dump to JSON is really, why I'm saying is a bit advanced, is that it will try to dump everything, meaning that it will recursively go through the sub object to dump it as well. So for example, I dump record. When I hit this is a person, that person class should also have a dump to JSON. So then I'm going to call that dump. And then within that person, I'm actually going to have a location. Location is GPS. So I'm going to dump GPS. So you can see that when I dump at a higher level, which is a record, it will trigger recursively a lot of dump until I hit everything is the lowest level. So essentially, let me run this program and see what I. Sorry, I know I must make some mistake about IKEA. Where's IKEA Sacramento? Did I misspell it? Oh, I know, because I need to include the IKEA here. IKEA Sacramento. Okay. So let's take a look at this. When I just look at who, okay? I look at who. Who, when I go to who is a vector, right? So I go to each of the element in the vector. It has two vector, two element of vector. The first one is Felix. And at this moment, how do I generate this piece of code? I'm actually going to dump, calling the Felix.dump to JSON, because Felix is a person. So if you go to the person.h, it also has a dump to JSON. Okay, so let's actually take a look at the implementation of person.cpp. If you look at the person dump to JSON, it will dump the name, right? It will print the name, it will print the social security number, and see when it comes to home. And home, because what? Home is a GPS location. So I just say GPS location dump to JSON. So now let's come back to this picture. That's why you see that I dump the social security number, the name, and then I dump the home.
So I saw that you did with like outside of you created the object using the class structure, and then you added other attributes after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you be able to dump those attributes if they're not kind of hard coded into it like that?
Okay, this is C++. So C++, every attribute every attribute in the class has to be defined clearly before the compiler. So you in C++, you cannot add an extra attribute. Okay, that is different from, say, Python. I think in Python, you can actually just add a new attribute. So think about this. but that will lead to another even more advanced question, but I will get to that later. Okay, so if you think about person.h, so person.h must have been already defined, must has already been defined, and the attribute it has must already be somewhere included. Okay, and so therefore, if the person is already included, sorry, the attribute is already fixed, then you have the knowledge as a programmer to write the code according to that. In fact, you might be able to automatically generate them to JSON. Because if you think about that, if the compiler is smart enough, it mandate you must have a dump to JSON function. It will just look at this line of code, this 5 lines of code, and find out its type and decide, what kind of code it was. So that part of code is definitely possible to be automatic generate. But over here, we're just hard code ourselves. Okay, so you look at this part is a little bit different. If you look at test.cpp, I add those things, right? I did add those things, or I add those things. This thing's already, how do I say that? It's basically has to follow the definition in the record.h, whatever it defined, then will allow me to do that. So essentially record.h become our contract for the dump to JSON to provide that information. Okay, so I do want to say that I will talk about this concept, but it's possible, say I have a Python object, and I could convert it to a JSON format. And then I can write a C++ program to re-in that JSON and then convert that to a C++ object. So essentially what I did is I did an object mobility to convert from a Python object to a C++ object. That's possible. However, that will encounter the issue that you just mentioned, is because Python allow the extension about whatever object you already create. And so at the time you convert it to JSON, whatever got converted is whatever is possible to move into C++. Okay, we'll address that issue a bit later. Okay, that's a very advanced topic. Okay, you're okay. Is everything okay with your homework too, everybody? Okay, okay.
I'm able to run it through the terminal now after the announcement that you made this morning, but I would still like to use it in Visual Studio Code, and I'm getting an error on that.
You want to? Do you mind share your screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You mind if I just come over here?
Sure. Let me allow other people to share the screen.
So let's see here. I haven't actually run it. Oh, hold on. .forward. What was the test thing again? What do I test?
This test_thing person.
That's how I do it, right?
No, there's no space here.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
oh, no worries. It's touchscreen.
That's cool.
Okay, it does work.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So then I was going to say, let me share my screen now.
You say share screen.
Okay.
Okay.
So, oops. Sorry, I'm not used to this.
No problem.
So I've changed the lines of code. This was told to me that the files were moved.
Right. Yeah, WSL, yeah, depending on how you set it up. Yeah, JSON CPP, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. But when I click run and I click run without debugging, It works, and then I get this error.
Okay, the reason Visual Studio Code, when you want to convert Visual Studio Code, it does not use makefile. It uses its own thing.
Mm.
So if you click on run, hold on. Okay, so you can see that, let me see, I haven't done this for a while. You have to, let me see, it's not terminal go, maybe. You have to write some, with Visual Studio Code, you have to write some, okay, here is a configuration. So this configuration file essentially include a bunch of options that, by the way, this itself is a JSON. You add a bunch of things and such that you recreate the same kind of information that I put in the make file.
So like I would have like a main file kind of thing.
You have to define a bunch of rules. So can you unshare your screen? I want to
Yeah.
tell people what I have an example for doing that. Okay, sorry, no, I cannot do this. Let me see. I want to share my screen again. So this is one of the main reason I decide not to use Visual Studio Code to run my program. I always use Make, is because it's just a bit complicated for me to always have to, because other people already have a make file. I can just use it. Whenever I want to do it, I have to do conversion to the JSON for me to do that. But I do have a video I record how to write that particular file. Let me see. This must be a long time ago. This must be 3 years ago. Yeah. Let me see. What did I do? This must be, oh, almost there. I'm almost there. I think this is the video. Yeah, this is the video on ecs36b Zoom, which is published in April 6, 2020. Okay. Let me actually tell you what happened. Let me just let me fast forward. It must be the last part. Here. Okay, you see that I start to talk about how do you actually create an object over here. And let me move a little bit forward to, here is, you see that? Here is the file. Here's a file. I started to define what do I mean by a task. Okay, and then that was just running a task, but then I'm actually going to show you how to run the how to write a make file type of thing. Let me move forward a little bit because this is still here. This is still the old thing. Let me move. Yeah, this must be the one for a moment. Yeah, YouTube is a bit slow. Are you kidding me? That slow?
And after that, you go to under terminal. I'm sorry, my is so, so under the
Go a little bit further.
that, the visual.
Hold on 1 second.
It will bring this picture together. So. Yeah, you're doing this development here and,
No, it didn't. Didn't have the make file I did.
that, I will call that a.
Did I do it earlier? Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This might be, I might gave another video, which is continue follow the video about VSC. How do I actually do makefile in VSC? Let me see if I have another video I can pull out. That was the only year I did this. I tried to teach people how to do makefile within Visual Studio Code, which later I realized I waste too much time trying to teach people to use two different systems, essentially doing the same thing. Let me see if I still have the other lecture. Go ahead, please.
I was trying to like before in it was first showing me an error on this one, but then I like had to like hard code in where my JSON was, and then it stopped doing the error because it couldn't find it.
Okay.
Like I had to hard code the path.
Right.
So is there any other way to do it? Like, is there
Sure.
any way around it?
Sure. I will show you how you can avoid that. Can you see my screen? Okay. So if you go to the makefile, if you look at the makefile, I didn't put -i here. That's strange. -i. And it still work. Okay, fine. So what you should be doing is in the C flag, you set -i/opt home brew. In your case is seller, is that right? CELL, whatever, CLAR?
Yeah, see.
Yeah. And then after that, what's next one? Can I see your screen again? You know what? This is too much. I mean, you have to type in the whole thing. It doesn't make sense. Is this a Mac or this is a Mac, right? Can I just check on your? I'm using your terminal. Okay.
Cause like that's the only place where I like found it, where the JSON was placed.
Okay. No. Okay, I got it. Can I modify your makefile? Can you come over here? So if you look at this file, I did a ls/opt/homebrew/include. This is basically all the include file. You can see that JSON is here. Is homebrew include. So in the make file, what you just need to do is over here, you set -opt/homebrew/include.
Okay.
And then you just change that back to
Okay.
whatever download. It should work.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, your instinct is right. Is that you have to include the whole full path, right, to find the file. But the standard way for us to do G++ GCC development with makefile is put a -I flag, -L flag in the makefile. So it will actually look for the right place. It's interesting, in my make file, I did not put a minus capital I flag, and somehow it still find it anyway. So I'm a bit. So usually it should be go like include. Let me check where I have my file. If I do ls/opt/homebrew/include, yeah, I also have JSON over here. I also have a JSON over here. This is Mac. For Unix, like a Ubuntu or WSL, it's probably going to be under, you have to say minus capital I/USR, USR local include or something like that. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe I did something on my shell script. Let me see. ls grab.
Thank you.
Oh, you are very welcome. Homebrew. Yeah, I might have done something in my my shell script such that it automatically will find that out. So okay.
No, it's still the error is still.
What arrow you got?
I don't know, it just gives this like. And then.
So where's the arrow? But that you're talking about this one, right? This
No.
bubble or then in
The
the
red squiggly lines.
it works,
Okay.
right?
Okay, never
Yeah.
mind that.
Yeah. Sometimes VSC gave arrow didn't not exist. So even your program is correct, the VSC makes certain mistake.
Oh,
Yeah, so I typically just use VSC for editing.
yeah,
I feel they still I still need to, maybe it's just me. I don't know how to use VSC well in terms of handling the makefile information. That could be just me. But yeah, I just usually use makefile from the terminal. Yeah.
I was
Okay.
gonna say, I found the location. I think that's where it is.
Yeah, okay. User include JSON CPP. Okay, that's good.
So,
So
okay.
you should include that in the makefile
So it
too.
would be minus I and then that.
Right.
Okay,
Right.
gotcha. One more just small favor. Can you show me how you get Emacs on here?
Oh,
You installed it before, then I had to reset my computer and then.
let me see if it's there. Okay, it's there already. You see, I just say minus Emacs, minus no window, no new window. And
Yeah, the thumb's in a weird button space.
you see, I
Oh.
can create the Emacs Control X,
Oh,
Control C.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Thank you.
Okay.
That's
Kevin, do you have any question? Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording. Okay.